Hello, Arpit. How are you?
Doing well, Jayant. How are you doing?
Very good. I can see you're outdoors today, sitting in some nice weather in
Y-
in in SF.
Yes, it's nice weather in the Bay Area, and I'm also doing a little bit of COVID precautions because I was in contact with a friend who tested positive. So just isolating myself right now.
Very prudent. Hopefully, it's a false alarm and you feel okay. But it also, if you have been precautioning and quarantining, I hopefully you caught some of the cricket in the last few days as well. So lots to talk about. So should we get into it?
Yes,
This is episode 6. I want to say
episode
episode
5, I thought, but
episode
either
5.
way,
Okay.
welcome to some episode of Pitch Rapport. I think it's
Yeah.
episode 5.
Welcome to you as well, and thank you. So let's get right into it. Like I guess first thing on my mind was, I'm sure it is true for many people who are listening or watching this, is the women's cricket that happened, in the last couple of weeks, the India series in England. Have you been following it? What were your thoughts about what happened?
Very closely. In fact, I should say I probably missed the first ODI, but I very closely followed the second and the third ODI. uh, Absolutely love where women's cricket is heading right now, and just admiring what our women team is producing in terms of just quality cricket overall. Few reflections, the obvious ones: Harmanpreet is just kicking ass. I think her century in the second ODI was some of the best cricket I've seen in a long time, and it was reminiscent of her World Cup knock. If it just rolled back
Yeah.
time to that knock where it's just edge of the seat cricket. Second, I don't know if it's an obvious observation or not, is Smriti. Wait, is it Mandana or Mandana? I think we keep mispronouncing it, and she's mentioned it a couple of times. I
The,
think
the,
it's
co-
Mandana.
the commentators keep saying Mandana. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's Mandana or Mandana, but yeah,
So,
let's yeah.
so like second one is Priti Mandana is for me shaping up to be the 90s Tendulkar of cricket, where we still have saving grace in Harmanpreet Kaur in middle order, but sometimes when she gets out, you almost feel like, okay, let's turn the TV off and go home. It's one of she's turning out to be
Mhm.
that person who you're watching women's cricket for is just a left-handed Tendulkar for me in the 90s. And I think the third, which the more unobvious one is, and it goes unnoticed a lot, is just Harmanpreet's captaincy overall.
Mm.
She is tactically very sharp with her bowling changes, if you see on the field. And
Mhm.
if you listen to some of her post-match commentary as well,
Mhm.
uh, she really knows and is a very sharp reader of the game, which you don't come to know unless you hear them talk.
Mhm.
And some of the bowling changes she's made, the way she's used her bowlers, and especially when defending such a low target in the third ODI, that for me was just phenomenal. So those were three kind of big takeaways for me in the women's cricket. We'll obviously come to the big finale of the women's cricket, but yeah, that's kind of my current reading of the women's cricket game. Where are you on this?
Yeah, look, I agree with everything you said. I mean, a few things from my side. Obviously, England were weakened, right? We have to acknowledge that Heather Knight wasn't playing, Nat Silver wasn't playing, Catherine Brunt wasn't playing. But at the same time, I thought they had some very strong players in as well. Number two, I mean, such a huge fan of like Harleen Deol. I feel like she's like Jaunty Rhodes plus Yuvraj plus
Jadeja.
Jadeja plus Ben Stokes all combined into one. Just a live wire in the field. Like I can't wait to each time the ball goes to her. It's awesome to see how she attacks it. And in general, I think the fielding standards have been so much better than what we're used to seeing in the last 4 5 years. And I thought India's batting. I know what you said about Smriti Mandana, but I also thought there is some depth that's coming through. So like for example, Deepti Sharma's recovery job, right, in both the second and also the third one. I mean, Harpmanpreet, of course, like in the second ODI, I think is what I call beast mode. Like after she got to 100, basically every ball, it didn't matter if you had 22 fielders, let alone 10 or 11 fielders. She was simply just belting it everywhere. It's such a pleasure to watch. But I still think there's still this the classic cricket skills that you see in play, like spinners really flighting the ball, fast ball, bowling those in dippers. Even for example, Jhulan Goswami's last wicket for me was just cut the ball and so on. And then the quality of wicket keeping, like you could see wicket keepers actually stand up to the fast bowlers. So both on the England side, Amy Jones, and on the India side, I think it's been quite a revelation, and I really hope with the IPL now confirmed for next year and so on. I hope that I hope may this long continue, and I really think like Lords deserves more such games like what happened on Saturday, including what happened in the end, which is what I think
Yeah,
we're going to talk about.
just yeah, before we jump into that, I think one thing I missed, and that's one thing I loved, like Yastika Sharma, right, the keeper.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, the
Yeah,
Bhatia.
Bhatia, my bad. Sorry, yes, standing up to both Jhulan Goswami sometimes and to I think Renuka Thakur. Both, I
Yes,
think she was making sure the batsmen are firmly planted within the crease, and that also drives a lot of the wickets that Renuka Thakur ends up taking. She's just one of the beautiful swing bowlers, and I think you spoke about it in the last one of the previous episodes where you said we had the era of the Ronnie Iranis and all of those
yes.
coming in, bowling slower deliveries and just focused on making the ball move. And that's what you're seeing because that's kind of the pace at which where we see the women bowl, and that's just producing some magical deliveries overall.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's I think just watching for me, even though it was Jhulan Goswami, the Legends last series, for me watching Renuka Thakur bowl was the better bowling performance to watch in the game.
100% agree. It was almost like a symbolic baton passing, where you could see, sort of old horse up to her wily tricks and, still able to, hurry the batsman and stuff. And then you could see Renuka Thakur really, really getting into the batsman. It was such a wonderful series. Really, really enjoyed it. So we have to talk about the big thing that
Yes, the
everybody's
elephant in the
had.
room.
Yes, that everybody's had their opinion on. So I mean, for those who are listening or watching, what we're going to talk about is there is this phenomenon called munketing, where as a bowler, until you're in your delivery stride, if you notice the batsman leave the crease at the non-striker's end, you're well within your right to run the batsman out. Now there's an interesting nuance here, which is and we're also actually one of our other topics today is to talk about the rule changes that are coming up in cricket. But there is also a rule change associated with this. So right now, this is you can run the batsman out, and it is put under unfair play, which is that the batsman is trying to take an unfair advantage. But that is going to get changed into a run out because the concept of fair and unfair play brings it to play a few things which we are going to talk about, namely the spirit of cricket and so on. But to maybe take that stigma out, it's going to become more of a classic run out rule. But what happened is it was a very close game. England needed 17 runs of 30 balls or something, and the Indian spinner Deepti Sharma basically decided to stop during a delivery stride and run out the batsman. England had 1 wicket left, so the last wicket was taken through this mode, which really divided opinion. There were some boos from the crowd, but obviously I think there were more Indians in the crowd, so it was drowned out by the cheers, and the entire cricketing world was split. So with that backdrop, let me ask Arpit, what was your take on this particular incident, but also marketing overall?
You can't isolate this incident from the mankading rule overall. Overall, what they're also trying to do is take away the taboo from mankading by not calling it mankading anymore. It is a
Yep.
legit run-out dismissal, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
It's called mankad because it's named after Vinu Mankad, the Indian bowler who
Yes.
actually did it. But I think you either are on the far side of mankading or you're not. I was on the against team of mankading. I have very much turned into the favor of mankading.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I'm one of those who switched, and that switch has not happened recently. It's happened like over the last 2 or 3 years as it's become a more prominent form of dismissal.
Mm-hmm.
I think one is the reason that drives it is our rules are very stringent towards bowlers, like a millimeter outside the
Mm.
line while
Mm.
bowling a delivery is called a no
Mm.
ball. And
Mm.
the next delivery is given as a free hit,
Mm.
which is an extremely stringent rule. I do feel that the batsmen get away with some light
Mm.
skirmishes with the rules, and hence I
Mm.
feel that if you can be as strict with a bowler about this, the rules should
Mm.
be equivalent across bowlers and batsmen.
Mm.
The second kind of reason why I'm pro man cutting is it removes the minor advantage a batting team might take, an unfair advantage a batting team might take, especially in crunch situation.
Mm.
So I'm okay with like it's the 15th over, it's 40 for no loss or whatever, and you
Yeah.
don't really care about what the additional run might do in that situation.
Mm.
But take 3 runs needed of 2 balls, it's a
Mm.
World Cup final, or 1 run
Mm.
needed of 1 ball, it's a World Cup final.
Mm.
And the batsman or the batter now makes it into the crease by just a few yards because
Mm.
he or she backed up and ran a few meters extra before the ball was bowled. And that
Mm.
resulted in the World Cup being decided.
Mm.
And there you can't call fair play because even today, we are
Mm.
still arguing about, did England win the World Cup fairly in
Yeah.
2019?
Yes.
And if you could use that reason to still argue today about England's World Cup win, I think this is a very strong reason for you to not let there be a gray area about a certain rule, which could decide a result at the end of the day.
Mm.
So those are kind of my two reasons why I have become pro cut. And I think one third big reason is just the number of broader common instances of it happening make it more
Mm.
commonplace versus
Mm.
if suddenly you tell me underarm bowling is
Yeah.
common. Obviously, I'm not going to take it for that, but yeah, like more mainstream players coming out and saying who are good readers of the game and analyze the game well, and if they are coming out and saying that they back this rule, that also
Yeah.
makes me feel that okay, there is place for this rule in the world of cricket.
Yeah, look, I think those are all excellent, really, really excellent points. I guess I think you alluded to one thing, which is I think the match situation makes a lot of difference because people's emotions about this whole mode of dismissal changes a lot based on the match situation, right? So in this case, obviously it was one wicket to go, the match was on a knife edge, versus as you said, if it's 15 overs, 40 for no loss, and someone monkered, maybe you would not have as much discussion debate about it. Similarly, if it's a World Cup final versus more of a regular game and so on and so forth. I always like to think about this in context to other sports, right? Like things like this, which kind of tread the line. So, for example, I think about like in football, where a striker is taking a penalty, the keeper is not technically allowed to even have has to have at least 1 foot behind the penalty line, right? And that is now monitored very, very closely. In baseball, it's the same thing. If you're allowed to steal a base, but you also expose yourself to being whatever whatever they call it, not really run out, but out if the pitcher throws and so on. Like in American football, even if like among the line, if one single player is off by an inch, that is considered a foul, and the other team gets like a penalty and so on and so forth. I think for me as a philosophy, I think Scott Styles actually tweeted this yesterday. I totally agree with him. I don't think we should have the laws of cricket in any conflict with the spirit of cricket, right? Just don't make the laws conflicting with the spirit. Just make sure that they're the same, and we wouldn't be having this debate. And I also think, given the way the professionalism that's there in the game today, I think we have to clarify and make things black and white, right? I think we've gotten to a stage where, teams get an edge on pretty much anything, including bowling matchups, batting matchups, right? We penalize a fielding side for having one fielder outside the ring. Maybe that will also be monitored more closely. Nowadays, no balls are being looked at by third umpires. Earlier, we were okay. If there was a case, and we said that's part of the uncertainty. I just think we are at a stage where the game has become so professionalized that these things just need to be accepted, and batters just need to know that they need to stay in the crease, and that's the way it is. And I'm also very supportive of the move to make it a run out rather than an unfair play, because then there's all this emotion and there's all the subjectivity that comes along with it. So maybe I sound a bit biased because this was India and this is a match situation which helped India win, but I'm definitely in the R Ashwin camp here, and R Ashwin being a super super big supporter of not giving a batsman an edge. I think it's fair play, right? If the batsman chooses to take the risk, the bowler is within their right to also run them out. So I'm gonna start calling it a run out as well at
Yep.
this point.
And just to give context to our listeners that on how divided the world is. So obviously we spoke about R. Ashwin, Scotty Styris, Harsha Bogle, Wasim Jaffer. All of them have come out in support
Yes.
of the move that Deepti did and just in man cutting in general. And on the other side, we actually have pretty good people who are also saying this is against the
Yes.
spirit of cricket. And so you've Jimmy Anderson who came out and said
Yep.
this was not cool. Sam Billings, who's still not a big name in cricket, but still a big enough player of note worth. Anyone else you saw who was a big name came out in
Stuart Broad. Stuart Broad.
correct.
Stuart Broad also came out. I mean, look, and there were a few ex-cricketers as well who came out, and came out both on both sides. And Harsha Bogle, for example, came out, in support. So I still think it will generate debate, but hopefully with the rules now being settled and being written in black and white, this will be less of a question because, like I said, we have other glorious uncertainties with the game anyway. We could do with one less in this regard, especially where it helps the bowlers.
Yep. Yep. Given we're talking about mankading and rules in general, do you want to jump and talk about other rules that are going to change? We're close to 1st October, where a bunch of new rules come into play. I
Yeah. Why don't you give us a bit of a lowdown for those who may not know about the rule changes? And yeah, we should pick up one or two points from the ones that we found interesting.
Yeah, I think we discussed about the first rule change, which is that when a batter is out caught,
Yep.
the new batter will come in at the end the striker was. This is because if the bowler has outwitted the batsman and got him out or got her out, the new batter should be taking strike and not on the other end, so that
Hmm.
the bowler can continue to bowl to a new batter. So I think
Hmm.
that let's keep that one out. I think we did discuss
We did.
that one last time. The next one, which is going to come into play in the next kind of 1 week, is the second one was just using saliva to polish the ball, which I
Yes.
believe is a pretty strange one that they have permanently enforced it. Usual cricket practice is you use saliva to polish the ball so that one side is
Hmm.
shiny and the other side is rough. It gives you
Hmm.
more swing. This rule was removed or temporarily banned because they did not want COVID spread through the ball itself. So no one was allowed
Hmm.
to apply saliva on the ball.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
now they have said that we're going to bring this rule into permanent effect, and you can't use
Hmm.
saliva in the ball with COVID, without COVID, doesn't matter. I
Hmm.
just curious to how you took to this rule.
Yeah, so on the whole, like, the use of saliva, I think this is one of those glorious uncertainties in cricket that is probably getting again eliminated or getting put in black and white. I remember there was all this. I remember Faf du Plessis getting banned for using lozenges or a certain type of chewing gum. I remember there was all this talk about Pakistani bowlers and how they were getting reverse swing back in the day, whether they were using some kind of special substance. I remember one of the most famous incidents. I can't remember who the England bowler is, but when they were in India, they had a sweatband on their forehead with Vaseline on it, and they would rub their fingers on their tongue and then their fingers on their forehead and try and put Vaseline on the ball to keep one side smoother. So, but I also get the need to standardize, especially now that you have two balls from each end on the one day side. I would have actually preferred to keep the saliva piece because I think it's because we give room for so many other conditions to play. And nowadays, the umpires have full discretion to change the ball whenever they want, right? So I feel like whatever work you put on the ball, if the umpires at some point deem that the conditions are too unfair and they need to change the ball, they can always change the ball. So I would have preferred this to stay. Obviously, I get it for sort of COVID reasons that for hygiene reasons, it's a good idea to maybe not have it. But I also think like it takes away from one of these things which often forms a very nuanced take on the game, especially in Test cricket. I feel like we could have kept that rule, and we could have not even kept that. We could have kept that allowance for the bowling side. And as usual, I'm a big fan of giving the bowling side every little advantage. Sometimes even the fact that the bowling team could be using saliva could be on the batter's mind or the batting team's mind. So I would have wanted this rule to stay from my point of view.
Interesting. Okay. The next rule that's coming into play
Mhm.
in a week from now, I don't think it will be used as often, but it's something around the unfair movement of the fielding side.
Yes.
So if there is any unfair movement by the fielding side before the ball is bowled,
Mhm.
the umpire can actually call it a 5 penalty runs for the batting team.
Mhm.
So that's an interesting one. I haven't seen this issue called out a lot in cricket. I do not know what warranted this change in the rule book overall.
Yeah, I remember you gave me this interesting tidbit about whether you can move towards the bad batter or you can move away from the I still can't remember what the exact rule is, but I remember when you were umpiring in one of your games, you actually had to read up as to whether the fielder can actually run back and move away from to make the ground
He
look ground.
They can't. So
Can't,
the
they can't.
fielder cannot move away from the pitch. They can only move in the direction of the pitch towards the
Hmm.
batsman. That's the only legal movement that's allowed. So
Yeah.
interestingly, there were these moments where if a batsman shapes up to play a paddle sweep,
Yes.
I have
Yes.
seen a lot of times a slip will try to run over to leg slip to try and
Yes.
catch the ball. That's
Yes.
technically after the delivery has been released when the batsman
Correct.
actually made a movement. I'm not
Correct.
sure if that will qualify as illegal movement or not.
It will, because I think this rule is only meant for as the bowler is running into bowl. If there are any deliberate or sort of unfair movements, then that is
Got it.
judged to be a dead ball. And the additional new rule is that the batting side could also get 5 runs awarded by the umpire. But the scenario you just said, where just after the ball is released, the fielder realizes the batsman is about to play a paddle sweep and then starts moving towards the leg side. That is still perfectly legitimate. But I think in this case, the main change, I guess, is the 5 runs. The 5 runs to me makes sense. If it is a penalty, it's a penalty. There are many other things which are considered like violating the fairness. So if it is a violation, then I guess the five run rule makes sense. I've just always found it weird that on a sort of related but slightly not related note, that when there is a helmet behind the keeper, that if the ball hits the helmet, it's awarded there. It is awarded 5 runs, but the helmet has to be physically on the ground. Like for example, if the keeper is wearing the helmet and the ball hits the helmet, that's not considered to be an advance. So again, that's another little
Yeah.
quirk that I guess cricket has.
Yeah, we can skip the other rules. They're pretty small overall. There was one which said that a bowler could technically run out a batsman in the delivery stride.
Yeah,
I did not even know that rule exists. Now it says
yeah,
that that rule is it's going to be called a dead ball, which
yeah,
is if you see a batsman charging towards you outside the crease, you can run
yeah,
them out.
yeah.
That's been abolished, but I have never seen that being implemented in real play. The one rule that I really feel should have been brought in. I don't think it should be brought in because it's not been discussed, but I
Uh-huh.
almost feel like if a batsman is given out
Yeah.
and the batter reviews the decision
Uh-huh.
and it's up and it's overturned and the decision is made from out to not out, I
Mm-hmm.
almost feel like the ball should be rebowled,
Mm.
because if you think about it, a batsman is trying to, let's say, score a run off the ball and it's given out LBW,
Mm.
and they did end up running through on that particular delivery. If they were
Mm.
given out, that run is null and void.
Mm.
And if the decision was overturned, that run is not given back to them. So
Ah,
technically, you lose a ball and
yeah,
you've not managed to score a run. And again, I am talking about crunch situations where
yeah,
you need 2 runs of the last ball and you
sure.
end up getting LBW, but you manage to
Mm.
scamper through for a single. What if the umpire gave a wrong decision? And I
Mm.
almost feel like the ball should be rebowled if the umpire's decision was overturned. You should
The ball should
rebowl
be
that
a
ball.
dead ball. The ball should also
Yep.
become a dead ball, and you should re-ball it. Yeah, I think that's actually a good suggestion. I'm gonna find out the MCC's inbox email address and maybe write it on behalf of pitch, crediting you for it. But yeah, I mean, it also just reminds us that of how many little intricate things could change the course of the game, and how many little rules we still kind of assume to be the same way. So I mean, last thing while on this topic is I saw that they've now formalized the rule around if your over rate is too slow, that you have to keep a fielder in the circle. They're going to extend it to one day internationals. I don't know why they had to wait till 2023 for it, but fine. They are going to bring it in 2023. But I'm a big fan of the rule, right? All these fines and player suspensions, I mean, don't make sense to me. The best way is to just allow in-game for something like this to happen. So I'm also a big fan of that rule change that's coming in
Yep.
as well formally.
And surprisingly, if you watch the India Australia series, Australia is playing one spinner in most of those series. Like they have
Mm,
3 or 4
Zampa. Yeah.
long run of bowlers coming in, and I don't think they've faced a penalty in even one of those games.
Interesting. So it shows it can be done
Yeah,
if
it
you.
can be done. You have a Cummins, Hazelwood, Green, and Sams in the team, and
Yes.
they're all bowling their full quota of overs, and you're still
Yeah.
managing to get through within the time limit.
Yeah. 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 So incentives work well. Okay, I'm conscious of time. So one thing I wanted to ask you is ping ball tests. We haven't seen one for a while. Are you a fan? Are you not a fan? What's your take on that?
Ah, so let's talk about why pink ball tests were brought in, right? And I can maybe then evaluate where I am. I don't have a off the top of my mind judgment on pink ball tests. So they were brought in because test matches have to be played in the day. They are pretty sensitive to daylight time. We always see
Yep.
batsmen are offered the light
Yes.
and being cut short in several regions across the world because of bad light. And that's because we play with a red ball, and the red balls are not conducive to be played at night. And as we
Yes.
are seeing, they want to make cricket a more audience friendly sport. And for that, you need to have games that happen post work at night so
Yes.
that people can watch it after work. And for
Yes.
that, you need to have a ball that can be played sort of from broad daylight to twilight
Yep.
to night. And hence they brought in the pink ball. They created a special pink ball that can be seen during the day as well as during the night. And a lot of science went behind in creating the ball. I think in terms of the actual movement or assistance offered by the ball, from what I understand, it still is much more than the white ball that is normally offered, but it is still lesser than the red ball.
Mhm.
And I think, and the third thing is it's kind of we keep talking about how little variations in the game
Yes,
add a little
yes,
more spice to it. So it takes a while for our cricketers to get used to that ball as well. So all in all, to be honest, now that I'm saying these things out loud, I don't see anything that's bad about having pink ball cricket. You're giving me cricket at night time, which
yes.
makes cricket a more audience-friendly sport. Yes, all for it. It makes Test cricket a more attractive format of the game. I think being a cricket purist for a while, Test cricket is one of the most enjoyable formats for me, and I want it to
Mhm.
grow more. And third is just, yeah, if it's creating another form of challenge for a team outside of the pitch, outside of home venue, there is a third element that is coming into play. I'm all for it to create a little more variability in the game. That how good are you to adjusting to this one more condition of the day?
Yeah, I'm with you. I actually am kind of sad that in this World Test Championship there aren't that many pink ball tests. I hope there will be many more. I actually think they are making test matches shorter. So I've noticed. I think there's some stat that says that most, if not all, pink ball tests haven't lasted 5 days. But it also shows that they're all result oriented. They become result oriented games. The final thing is, I do think they expose the weaknesses of the weaker teams more because the ball swings more, and if as a newer test side your batting is not up to the mark, you're really going to get found out, right? So I think that's maybe a disadvantage, and it maybe doesn't level the playing field. It exacerbates the difference between good and bad teams. But between good teams, I think they should be able to battle it out in all conditions. So hopefully there's many more pink ball tests. The last little quirk I would say is I play with the pink ball every other week or whenever I play cricket, but not because I play day night test cricket. The indoor cricket that we play needs a ball where we can see well because the little whatever arena where we play in has very poor light. So the person who brings the ball has bought a lot of pink balls. So while I can't claim to be an exponent of swing, the ball I play with is a pink ball. So I can at least lay claim to having played
Wait,
cricket with
Jan,
a
please
pink ball.
clarify for the folks, is this a legit ping ball that our test playing nations use, or is it just a random ball of the street that's been painted pink just so that you old guys can see it?
I will unfortunately have to break the notion of me padding up and looking at the pitch and playing hardcore cricket. This is just a normal ball that has been painted pink. But I do feel a very special holding it because I feel like I'm at the cutting edge of where Test cricket is going. Whereas the cricket we play is definitely not close to cutting edge at
Awesome.
all. Great stuff. Well, we are out of time. As always, thank you for all the good thoughts and for the good analysis. And we will see each other next time.
Yes, this was fun. Thanks, Jan.